I would lay in bed beside them and he would touch me in my sleep and right beside my mother. I was having sex with my brother because it was so normalized in my family, and I thought that was love. So I grew up in a rural area in Northern Ontario. I had siblings, 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister. I was raised in like a quote unquote normal family. There was a lot of darkness in our home and a lot of heartache and a lot of trauma. I had my stepfather raise me and my mother, and I actually did not meet my biological father or even know he existed until I was 11 years old. At 11 years old, I found out I had 2 more sisters. When I was about 5 months old, my mother started cheating on my biological father with my stepfather. So my biological father would go away to work, and my mom would bring in this man, and he would buy me diapers. He would walk me up and down the aisles at night. He my mother. He more or less my mother to get what he needed from me. His addiction to sex was serious, and it was all often. So he my mother and me. I would say, my mother had her trauma herself. She there was a case against her as a child where someone said something to her. It was an uncle of hers, and her trauma very much bled into my life, and she was easily, unfortunately, she had been. So I was about 3 when my mom would ask me to come into the bedroom, and it would be this game that we would play. Are you sleeping naked tonight, Mom? Is what I would ask. I would say, Mom, are you sleeping tonight? And if my mom was sleeping naked tonight, I would take my underwear off and sleep naked too. But if my mom was sleeping with clothes on, I would put my clothes on, and they would play this game with me back and forth. I would lay in bed beside them, and he would touch me in my sleep and right beside my mother. I don't know if she knew at that moment. It was scary. But when I was around 5, he started to come into my room by himself, and every night, lots of nights. And he started performing on me, and I instantly liked it. Like, I liked the feeling of it. It felt good. I was like, oh wow, this is love. He told me that this is what all dads and daughters do. I thought he was my real dad. So it seemed like normal and just like what was supposed to happen. When this started, I was being given chocolate bars when he would come into my room at night. And then I remember around 8 or 9 years old, my mom walking in on it. The image I have is her standing at the door with her big eyes, big giant blue eyes. And I just remember her standing there staring and then walking away. He would come into my room and see me about 3 to 5 times a week. 90% of the that my stepdad put me through was performed on me. And so because I liked how it felt, it created this dynamic where I would say, with that game that I was telling you about, that I would say, can you come into my room tonight, Dad? I'm sleeping. And that developed a control problem for me. I feel like I need control of everything. I need control of every situation in my life. And that's really when my problem with control developed. I was taught to hide this from my mother because it made her jealous and it made her angry. Oh yeah, it was scary to, like, she was a very angry woman, very angry when I was growing up. Like, a lot of like physical abuse on her part. That was kind of his way of manipulating me as well. Like, if your mother finds out, we're gonna get in trouble. There were times when my grandparents would walk in the door and she would be hitting me and they would just walk out because it was so normalized in my family. My mom walked in and caught him when I was around 8 or 9, and he was on top of me in that moment. And I remember her looking at me, and it wasn't the same after. She walked right out, and it wasn't the same. I remember a lot of jealousy after that, a lot of name calling. My stepdad was never convicted of siblings, but he was convicted of multiple other children. My friends growing up. I was having sex with my brother because it was so normalized in my family, and I thought that was love. I started sleeping in my brother's room often. I felt like maybe safer in there. I think, as a child. So I would ask to sleep in his room a lot of nights. And on the nights that I would sleep in there, I would show my brother the things that my stepdad was teaching me. You know, the age of 8 and 9, and I was trying to get control and staying in bed with my brother. My brother was 2 years younger than me at the time. I held a lot of guilt for that, because I felt like I introduced him to something that I was introduced to. Around 15, when I finally told my stepdad no, is when it kind of ended with my brother. I wanted to stop it with my brother because I said to I just felt it was wrong. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just knew. So I told my brother that I was done with it, and he was mad at me. He was angry at me. And then I moved out. I moved out around 15 years old because I was done. I couldn't live like that anymore. And my stepdad took all of my belongings and threw them on the front lawn because he was mad that I broke up with him. When I was in grade, I don't even know, 4, I had a birthday party. And my stepdad was there, and my really close friends were all there. And one of my close friends came to school the next day and said, Tiffany's dad had when I sat on his lap. And I flipped. I was like, she's lying. There's no way. He would never do that. In my opinion, he wouldn't have done that to anyone but me. Yeah, he had her. And then I had another family friend growing up. My stepfather would pick her up and do disgusting acts. And he had about 3 of my friends that I know of. And one of my closest friends. When I was born, my stepfather was 19. So when I was 3, my stepfather was around 22. And it continued until I was 15. So he was around 35-ish when it ended. My age. My stepdad had a friend who was a little on the creepy side. He had a friend that I had when I was a teenager. And he was older, and it was definitely. Then when I was 15 or 16, I was drinking a lot, partying a lot, doing a lot of and I got twice. Once at a party, and then the next couple weeks later at a different party. So when I was 15, I was sick of this, and my aunt lived across the street. So my aunt took me in. And my aunt, was living in poverty and struggling a little bit. And my grandfather paid my aunt for me to live there for a little bit. Then when I was around 15 and a half, 16, I met a 20-year-old boy, and he started to financially support me. And he and I got an apartment in a small community down the street where I finished high school and went to hairstyling school. So when I was 19 years old, I moved back into my stepdad's and my mother's for about 3 months. My stepdad would make advances at me often, and he would the odd time grab or touch if he felt like he could get the opportunity. When I was 19, I met my now husband. We've been together for 16 years, and we got pregnant within 3 months. And I had my first son when I was 20 years old. So I met my husband. Within a year, we had a baby. My stepfather was convicted and sentenced to 4.5 years in jail, and he served 3.5 years in jail. So I started sharing my story on TikTok. That was the start of my journey. I just needed to get it off my chest. So I started feeling less alone. And I started meeting with these girls all the time and talking about our trauma, and we had all had the same trauma. And now we have a support group, and we all chat throughout the support group, and we chat over Zoom, and we have meetings for survivors. And it kind of just started like that. And then I met this woman. Her name is Iselina, and she's an amazing person. She's a social worker. She messaged me on TikTok, and she said, I see one of your TikToks, and I think you live close to me, and I would like to take you out for dinner. And I was like, free therapy, I can't hurt, right? So I met her, and she has been like my rock She's been the mom I'd never had, you know, like she's a little bit older than me. She's like a mom's age to me, and like it's just been like just life changing. And I share my story to, well, I would say firstly to be selfish. I was silenced for so long, and it feels so good to just share it. It just feels so good to say it. And secondly, to if I can help like one more person, which I've helped many children out of, any advice I could give to a survivor right now would be to reach out for help. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to ask somebody for your resources. There are people who care. There are people who care. Most people do care. It's only the environment that you're in that doesn't care. I want to work with women. I want to work with women and children, I think. Like I'd love a women's shelter. I think that could be a big goal for me. And in my long run, in my long future, I see myself maybe fostering teenage girls. When I started telling my story on TikTok, the comment section, and even to this day, the comment section is filled with "thank you, I feel less alone." And I feel less alone when I read those comments. I'm like, I know I'm not the only one. I'm like, I know I'm not crazy. Like this is real in my head. Like always when all my family has knocked my truth down, and these people I don't even know validate it. Like it's amazing and beautiful. So they help me as much as I help them, is the way I feel. Thank you for listening to my story. If it could help just one person, I feel better. And life is a journey, but it's definitely worth living. It's definitely worth fighting for. And I wish you guys all well, and all of the survivors out there, if you're listening, just know you're not alone, and there's many of us. So don't be scared to come forward and find your community of people.